We'd love to help you to get from here to there in terms of being able to eliminate the waste in your business when you're focused on getting those things done. And when you've got processes and procedures in place to allow you to accomplish it more quickly, then everything gets a whole lot better.
Increase sales, improve margins, and grow your business. Guaranteed. Top secrets of marketing and sales. Now, David Blaise.
Hi, and welcome back. In today's episode, co-host Kevin Rosenquist and I will be discussing eliminating waste in your business. Welcome, Kevin.
Great to see you, David. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, so we're talking waste, obviously waste in business. There's different kinds of waste. A lot of people will immediately think of money, but that's not really what we're talking about, is it?
Well, some of what we're talking about, I guess. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of talk about waste and finding waste and eliminating waste in the news. And I thought, well, how does that really apply when you're operating a business? Because anyone in business, particularly small to medium-sized businesses, have to be aware of the fact that there is always likely to be some kind of waste in the business. And as you pointed out, I mean, very often it starts with money. We're afraid that we might be wasting money. And in many cases we are.
Sure.
But for most businesses who are reasonably run well, that's usually not the biggest thing.
What would you say is the biggest thing, or can you give me like your top three?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think for most of us, it probably starts with time, because the time that we waste is something that we can never get back. I think I heard Brian Tracy say this years ago. It's like, if you lose money, you can always make more, but if you run out of time, I mean, that's it. That's pretty much how it works.
I mean, there's no going back. So far, they haven't figured out a way.
No, we have not figured out a way to do that. So when we look at our days, when we look at our weeks, and even hour by hour, and we look at things like meetings, are our meetings productive? Are our processes organized or disorganized? What are the distractions like during the course of a day? Because when we're focusing on one thing and then we're distracted and we have to switch back and forth, it requires flipping the switches in our brains and getting ourselves adjusted to the new thing that we're thinking about. All of those things consume time, which is in many cases even worse than money when we start wasting it.
You brought up a good one, meetings. And I think that's something, especially in this day and age of Zoom calls and all that stuff. I have a lot of friends who are in the corporate world or in the business world, and they talk about the needless meetings, the constant need for people to feel like you got to get the crew together. Why are small businesses and medium-sized businesses so focused on that? And how can they pull back?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there are some people who just feel like it's necessary. I think there are some business owners, some managers who feel like their presence in everyone's day-to-day life is critical. And that's true more of some people than others. Some employees are happy to be able to just do their own thing and get everything done. Others do need more interaction. So it is an individual kind of thing. I think most business owners have to take a look at that and say, how much of me do they need? How much of their sales managers do they need? But being aware of the fact that each time we force everyone to get together, the clock is running. The clock's running on everyone. And when you have a bunch of people on one meeting, that means that all those people are tied up for that period of time. And if it's not productive for everyone on that meeting or in that meeting, then it may make sense to do things a little differently.
Yeah, we've all been in that situation where someone calls a meeting and you're just like, oh, come on, I have so much to do. I don't want to do this.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because I think in a lot of cases, employers are thinking that way and employees are thinking that way, but the one is not thinking that the other is thinking that way necessarily, right? So there's that disconnect sometimes. But I do believe that time is probably one of the biggest things that we need to look at, particularly in small to medium-sized businesses. Beyond the time then, you mentioned the idea of money. Obviously, that's the first thing that most people think of when it comes to not wanting to waste things inside your business. When I think of wasting money in a business, some of the things that leap to mind first are things like marketing that doesn't work, marketing that doesn't convert, and things like that. That can be a time waster as well as a money waster, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, well, a lot of marketing, we're both marketing people, a lot of marketing efforts are very time consuming. They're very all consuming, as far as if that's your job, it's like that kind of becomes your focus for whatever period of time to get that rolling. And if it's not successful, there's waste right there.
Yeah, exactly. And when we think what we're doing is supposed to produce a result and it doesn't, then we really have to start reevaluating what's going on. I think a lot of that boils down to the tracking that we're either doing or not doing to see how well our activities are actually paying for themselves in that regard.
What about data? Like, I feel like we're so obsessed with data right now, and for good reason. I mean, like, it's so available to us now. Do you feel like people might spend too much time worrying about the customer data or how to use it effectively, trying to collect every piece of data they can?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think in some cases people do. I think the opposite is also true, maybe in more cases than not, where sales representatives are maybe not capturing the data they need to be able to advance the process. I think a lot of times in a sales situation, the focus is on closing in a lot of cases, which is important. I'm not taking anything away from that. But when you're having a conversation with someone and you say, all right, what do I need to advance the sales process in the next conversation, right? Is it a piece of information that I need? Is it something specific that I'm waiting for? To be able to sort of seed the ground and say, okay, so when we get together on Thursday, let's make sure we have this, this, and this. We can make sure those things are lined up so we have access to the things that we need to move forward. In fact, that's probably a good topic for a future podcast. We should look at.
I would say so.
All right. But those types of things are really critical in terms of what are we going to capture. In a lot of cases, one of the biggest things we want to capture is what is the next step for the next meeting? When's it going to happen and what needs to happen in that meeting so that each contact that we have with a prospect or a client has purpose and we know what that purpose is and we know what to look for in those conversations.
Another example of wasted conversation, wasted time with clients, wasted meetings. Those meetings don't just have to be internal, they can be external as well, where you're not getting to the point where you need to get to.
Yeah, and that tends to happen a lot. When we look at these different things, you look at time waste, you look at money waste, there's another one that I think is big, which people may not consider, and that is energy. I mean, we each have a limited supply of energy in the day, right? Some people are morning people, some people are nighttime people. So our natural energy peaks at different times of day. And just looking at that sometimes and saying, okay, well, how can I make sure that when I've got the most energy, I'm being the most productive? Because if I'm wasting my sort of personal prime time, then the likelihood of success goes down quite a bit.
And speaking of energy, mine's at a dipping, David, so don't expect much from me for the rest of this episode, okay?
Okay.
You kind of led the talk about what's going on in the news and stuff like that. And of course, that comes down to talent, to people. Like that's what is happening. A lot of people are getting let go of their positions, whether it's the government or the tech sector. You're seeing it a lot. Obviously, there can definitely be waste with people. How can business owners and companies identify where that waste is in their talent without resorting to mass layoffs or without putting too many people out?
Yeah, in the kinds of business that we interact with small and medium-sized businesses, it's a different thing. I mean, because obviously you're not going to have mass layoffs in a small company.
True.
But most people, particularly, when the economy is a little uncertain, people aren't really sure, do I need to start cutting costs from a personnel standpoint? It's a big decision. And in those circumstances, it usually makes the most sense to say, okay, where are the holes in the bucket, essentially? It's very likely in most small to medium-sized businesses that there are people who are probably the go-tos when it comes to not pulling their weight. It's not a popular conversation to have, but in most businesses, it's true. Of course, that also goes to how well are we tracking what's going on in our own organization? Are we aware of what people are doing on a day-to-day basis? Now, in sales, if salespeople are tracking their calls and if they're making notes about who they're interacting with and all that sort of thing, then there's documentation behind that. You can see sort of who's doing what and what sort of impact it's having. If their sales are trailing off, is that because of what they're doing or is it because of the effort they're putting in? So as long as your reporting systems are okay, you can usually spot that kind of thing in a small to medium-sized business in a way that you can adjust it when it becomes necessary.
That's a great point too, as far as, especially with small businesses. I feel like a small business is more prone to not doing that tracking that you're talking about because they don't have systems in place. It's more of a, hey, we're all cool. Everybody do their job and we're going to be fine. I mean, so there's not a lot of tracking. There's not a lot of accountability there.
Yeah, and it's a very easy trap to fall into, particularly in small businesses where small business owners very often engage in management by abdication. It's like, okay, you do it. I'm out of here. I'm going to go do my thing. You go do your thing.
Right.
And if there aren't reporting procedures in place that allow everybody who needs to know in the organization who's doing what and that it's happening, those kind of things can get out of control pretty quickly.
No doubt. Well, kind of piggybacking off of that to some degree, automation's a big thing that people talk about, whether it's AI or automation's been around for a long time, but it's definitely getting to another level with AI. How can companies balance the need for the human touch versus maybe a position that might be wasted what they can use with automation instead?
Yeah, that's becoming more and more of an issue. And I think the challenge is being able to utilize the technology to be able to allow the people to do more and better. I tend to think of it in those terms more so than in terms of, okay, well, who can I replace with automation?
Yeah,
Who can I replace with AI? Right? Because when we've got good people in our organizations, we want them to be able to do better. We want them to be able to do more with the resources. So when you've got resources like that, it's no longer about who's getting replaced with AI. It's like who's going to be able to use the AI in a way that will allow them to do their jobs better and more efficiently, because that creates job security for people as opposed to creating problems and having them lose their jobs because they're not keeping up with the tech.
Yes, very good point. And maybe technology can also help us in other ways, like what might be considered opportunity waste, where businesses might be spending way too much time, and back to your energy, way too much energy chasing low quality leads or just ones that aren't ever going to get anywhere instead of nurturing existing relationships. Is that another place that you see a lot of waste, and are there ways for people to utilize technology to avoid that?
Well, yeah, I think anybody, particularly who is paying attention right now with everything going on with AI, it's not always a focus for everyone, and that's perfectly understandable. For some people, it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't have time for that. The truth of the matter is, with the way things are going, you better find some time for that. You better be able to find some time to at least look into it and say, how can I use this? Not just can I use this, but how can I use this? What can I do that would allow me to save my own time, save my people's time, to be able to allow them to get things done better and more efficiently and more effectively? Because as things get tighter, as things get a little crazier in business, those are the types of things that are going to give those who are paying attention a big advantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this very interesting conversation about waste, it's definitely something that a lot of people need to know more about. If people want to get more information from you, what's the best way?
You can go to topsecrets.com/call, schedule a call with myself or my team. We'd love to help you to get from here to there in terms of being able to eliminate the waste in your business. A lot of times when we're looking to grow, the challenge is to be able to get in touch with the people that you need as quickly as possible, get them qualified in or out as quickly as possible, so that you can be on to the people who actually are ready, willing, and able to do business with you. Those are the types of things that when you're focused on getting those things done, and when you've got processes and procedures in place to allow you to accomplish it more quickly, then everything gets a whole lot better. So topsecrets.com/call.
Awesome. Well, thanks, David. Really appreciate it. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Increase sales, improve margins, and grow your business. Guaranteed. Top Secrets. TopSecrets.com.